Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in. Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am swell considering everything. I'm super happy to meet you here and chat with you about your new album, Mirrors, on Aural Music. Big fan of that label. I love this record. Before we start talking about the album, of course, it's a really insane year, and I just like to check in with everybody I interview and make sure you're fine, your family's well, anybody you make music with is okay, because I feel like as much as I love to talk about art and music and I want to find out all about you and share your story, I also want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, I watched some of your interviews, so I'm aware that you really care about the people you talk to. So yeah, uh, I'm based in Italy right now, which has been crazy. I mean, now it's probably worse in the United States, but we had our share of horror here, and luckily neither me or nor my close friends or family were um, touched by the virus. I don't know personally anybody who got sick or worse. But yeah, besides that, the situation has been insane. I mean, it's getting kind of back to sort of normal, new normal. And I don't know, everybody's talking about the second wave. So I don't know. I miss going to shows, I miss traveling, but that's what it is. I hope you are fine and everybody you love all of your loved ones are okay. So
Doing the best we can with what we've got. Right, I see your concert tickets right behind you. I
yeah,
have a
just some
similar
of them.
I have a similar area of just some of them. Also, you can't see it on the camera because it's in front of me, but yeah, music is our life, and it's so
It
weird
is.
because most of the, obviously, except for I'm in America, except for international artists, I interview people in person at shows every week. That was my whole life until
Right.
March. So it's just weird for me. I'm
Oh,
sure it's weird for you if you love bands and you love to go to concerts. Like I could see how it would be, you
oh
know,
yeah. I miss it
challenging.
like crazy. I used to be a part of a collective running a little DIY venue here in Trieste, and we used to put up shows like 2 or 3 shows a week. And we had a whole bunch of people playing from all over the world. We closed it before Corona because of the we just couldn't, everyone was a volunteer, and everybody had their bands, their jobs, their families, blah blah blah. So after 13 years, we had to close it. But yeah, still, concerts are a huge part of my life, and I really, really miss it.
Mm.
So that's that.
Well, maybe you can restart your collective again someday. That sounded amazing, and it. I always, even artists on record labels, even the biggest artists in the world I have talked to, they all talk about small venues, and
They're the
in the
best, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, there's a camaraderie, there's a spirit in the underground that
Oh yeah,
doesn't really exist everywhere else, and
yeah,
yeah. So sorry for that. That sucks, but I hope it gets better.
yeah. Me
um,
too.
So before we talk about the album, because there's a lot of stuff I want to, ask you about, I just wanted to kind of hear about your backstory as an artist because I find you so interesting, the music you make, the voice you have. So what, if you want to just take us briefly through, like, how did you get started in music? When did you first start singing or playing?
Okay. I don't have such a long backstory as an artist, but I have a long story of writing and singing. So basically, I went to music school when I was a child in Russia. So I graduated playing piano, classical piano. I studied solfeggio and choral. I got choral training, and I sang in choirs and actually like folklore, like Russian folklore songs, and there were all those beautiful harmonies all the time. And my voice was so. The teacher would tell me that my voice was so like scratchy and low, so she would tell me like just be quiet, just like open your mouth and let everybody else sing. And I was so upset all the time because I love singing. I've been singing since I can remember myself. There is a picture of me. I couldn't even walk yet. There's a picture of me sitting on a floor, and my mom like with an open mouth, so she said that I was singing. So yeah, that has been a huge part of my life since I can remember myself. And then my brother, who was older than me and a metalhead, which was a rare thing back in the 90s, in the 80s in Russia. So he kind of introduced me to heavier music. So the first record he gave me was a cassette by AC/DC, and the second one was Sepultura. So that's how I got into like, yeah, Beneath the Remains, I think. I don't remember. And that's how I got into like, I mean, I didn't understand the lyrics because I mean, I started speaking English since when I was pretty young at school, but back then I still didn't really understand what they were singing about, but just like, you know, loved the energy. And yeah, and my parents had those couple of those records printed on the rib cage, how do you call them, you know
X-rays.
those, yeah, like you could
Yes.
play them a couple of times, and then the rib records, something like that they're called. I don't know.
Yep.
None of them survived because you could play them a couple of times, and then, but a lot of music was prohibited in the Soviet Union. I was growing up. I was born in the Soviet Union, and I grew up in Russia, in like non-Soviet Russia. But you know,
Mm.
there was a huge issue with the music, foreign music, and so yeah, whatever we could get, like bootleg cassettes and things like that. So yeah, music has been always a huge part of my life. I taught myself to play guitar a little bit because I prefer guitar because I travel a lot and move a lot, and you cannot really, you know, take a piano with you. So, um, and I also wrote poems throughout my life a lot, even more than music. And I had them just piled up because, you know, every time I felt something, I needed to express something, I would write. And some of them, parts of it, ended up in as lyrics for Covered Mirrors, actually. I have been around musicians and like singing with some, you know, cover rock bands in college and stuff like that. But I never considered being trying to actually make an album because I was, I don't know, nobody's gonna care. Why would I? And also the main reason was because it's pretty personal, you know. So getting yourself out there was kind of frightening. So I never thought about it. But then couple of years ago, I don't know, it started pouring. I found this old acoustic broken guitar from the 60s, a shitty guitar actually, but a friend of mine fixed it a little bit. So I started playing. I taught myself, you know, basic finger picking through YouTube videos, and then I just started writing, and then the melody would call for the lyrics or vice versa. So all my songs were born in a very like spontaneous, weird way, and then that's it. I told all like 90% of my friends are musicians or sound engineers, or so just, you know, while talking to them, I'm like, yeah, I have these songs, and one of them goes like, let's just try and record them and see where it goes. Like make a demo. I'm like, okay, I never recorded anything in my life. I don't know how to do that, but sure. And we recorded, I think, 4 songs, and I listened to them. I'm like, oh, that's not that bad actually. And then yeah, other friends heard it, and they're like, you have to do a proper record and just like make the record. I made the record. I uploaded 1 song on YouTube, and Emiliano from Aural Music heard it somehow from some friends. Somebody reposted it or something, and he's like, he texted me on Facebook to my like Facebook page, and he's like, okay, I want to hear more. I'm like, okay. I sent him the whole thing, and I think a couple of days later he told me, okay, if you're interested, I'd like to put it out, and that was it.
That's amazing. So many things to mention there. A shitty guitar can save your whole life, by the way. I'm a fan. And
I mean,
a broken
it's a
guitar,
lovely guitar. It's just it's not a quality guitar. I bought
right?
myself a better guitar too, actually, but that one will always remain the guitar, you know.
Right. Just judging by the, you know, the talent you have in this album, I'm really glad you didn't let that early teacher discourage you. I am also a refugee from music school, and I had some very
Oh,
mean teachers, and I
what did you
was like,
play?
I sang. I was a singer, and I
Oh,
played in bands. I played bass and guitar in bands. Not well, but
oh,
I sang. I sang for a long time, and I had like a very, you know, you get to like, oh, you're good. You should be in, you know, do things, and then you do things, and then somebody comes along. A few artists I've interviewed talked about this, that they had like a teacher early on that was like mean, and then they overcame it. And this, I had that happen to me where I had a very mean, very a famous person who was a teacher who was very famously mean, and she was really
oh,
mean, like in you know, like you don't, you know, young artists are vulnerable, right? You were young,
Right.
and somebody was like, "Don't sing." I mean, that's horrible to tell somebody that loves singing, "Don't sing," instead of helping you. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't stop. I'm really That's what I wanted to
Thank
say.
you. I'm actually, my mom is here right now and she's gonna go back to my hometown once Corona allows her to. And I'm gonna give her a CD, my CD, and I'm gonna ask her to try and find the teacher because she probably still lives there and she probably teaches school still and just, give it to her.
Nice, I like it. Enjoy. I bet you will end up liking it and find out that she was wrong.
I hope so. Even if
Yeah.
it does, she doesn't, maybe she just realizes that probably not really. I mean, people can go their own ways without necessarily being loved and appreciated by everyone, I guess. I mean, I was a child and I was probably very loud and maybe out of tone or whatever, but still.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially children, there's a certain way to teach. You don't teach them the same way you teach an adult, right? You have to be,
No.
you can't. I understand.
Yeah.
I know classical musicians and teachers. You don't teach a child the same way you teach a grown
They are
person.
tough. I mean, I was like hit on my fingers with what's the with ruler, and they would like close the cover of the piano over my fingers because I played by ear. I'm horrible at reading the sheet,
Mm.
so I would just like my teacher would play for me, and I would just play by ear because I have a very good ear. Sometimes, back at school they like tested me and they said it was a absolute how do you call it, absolute ear, absolute hearing, absolute pitch. I don't know,
Like
whatever.
perfect pitch, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, whatever that. I don't know. Maybe I don't think that's the case. But still, I had a good ear, so I could just repeat by hearing what they. But I was horrible. I still don't know how to read from to read the sheet music, and they would just like close the cover of the piano over my fingers so that I couldn't look. It was, yeah, it was intense.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah,
Oh, well, I'm again super glad you didn't
Russian
stop.
teachers are tough.
Hey, I bet. Yeah, it sounds like it. I would also say one other really interesting thing before I ask about the album. I love that you mentioned sort of the difference between pre and post Soviet Russia because I was just reminiscing with a friend of mine about it was just a few weeks ago was the 31st anniversary of the Moscow Musicians for Peace concert, right? Which was the first time Western bands came to Russia to play, really,
Pantera,
except for like yeah,
right?
the one before Pantera. So the Pantera
Because Pantera
Metallica,
was 92. Yeah.
yeah. So the one before it, there was obviously I know certain people, Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel came over, but like the metal, right? So it was like Ozzy, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Skid Row,
Yeah.
and I had met somebody that told me about the like I don't think most Americans understand that like you couldn't press vinyl for a long time in Eastern
No,
Europe. You couldn't even
you
ship
couldn't
it.
own it.
Yeah, you already couldn't get. There were no record players, so they did these things. I love that you mentioned this. This is so amazing. As a music fan and a nerd, um, that they would take X-rays, right? People would get their medical records back, and then you could like basically make an imprint of a record on an X-ray and play it on like a
Yeah,
makeshift.
my
Like
parents had the Beatles and Deep Purple.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so sad that they didn't survive because we also moved a few times. But yeah,
But yeah, that's
those were
crazy and
interesting
great.
times.
Surely, and we were spoiled here. We had like tapes, cassette tapes, and 8 tracks, and um, CDs later. But yeah, that's like people love music so much they will like become a scientist and figure out how to make something so
Yeah,
they
they
can
would
use it.
go out of their way. They would risk like jail.
Yes, and some of those records were illegal. You couldn't. You were like not.
Yeah.
Western culture was frowned on, right? I know that like
Yes.
We don't have to get into a whole political discussion about that time, but I know that it was like a gradual change. It wasn't like overnight. It's okay. Blue jeans and rock and roll is okay now. It wasn't quite like that, but
No.
anyway, fun stuff and very interesting about your upbringing. I think a lot of that definitely you can hear it on this record. And you can tell I could like before I even read the biography and I listened to the music, I was like, this person is into poetry. You can tell like the like vocals, the lyrics, the title of the album. It's all very provocative, right? It's meant to elicit like a feeling. The words, and I'm
Yeah.
still a person that I love singers and I love singing and I love lyrics. They're still meaningful to me. There's a lot of metal heads out there that are like, I don't even listen to the words. I don't care, and that's fine if you're out there watching this and you don't like lyrics and you don't care, but I care, and so I'm really glad that you
So
also
do
care.
I.
Shows. It really shows. And so I wanted it,
Here.
Covered Mirrors just by itself, the title could mean so many
I'm
things.
I'm really I'm really glad to hear that because yeah, lyrics is sometimes even more important than the melody itself. Sometimes, not in my case, but just in general for music. And I always, when I dig a song, I'm like, I'm loving it, and sometimes I don't really, I cannot understand 100% of it, or maybe it's in a language I don't speak. So I always go look up and find, and you can find some fun stuff online because sometimes people mishear it and like type in the lyrics that are not there. It's funny, but yeah, lyrics are poetry is amazing.
And then I know you said you learned English very young. Do you? And some of your songs are not in English, and have like a very we'll talk about spirituality and religion in a second. But I wonder, do you write your poetry the same way, sort of across different languages for different meanings, or just these
You
songs
know,
came out?
so I used to write in Russian when I was a child, although I started learning English pretty early and I was quite, I mean, I could probably express myself, but your mother tongue is your mother tongue, and some of the feelings you can only express it at a certain level, you can only express in your own your mother. Even now, when I write in English, I still think in Russian sometimes, or I mean, now I think in Italian because I live in Italy, and when you live in in a country with a certain language, you always like you have to translate. It's a weird mix in my head. But for instance, um, concepts like death and love and life have gender in Russian language, while they don't in English. So for me, they're all female because they are female in my native language. So I always think about death or life or love as a female, feminine something. So it's something that's linked to the language. But now I write. I don't know. Some of the lyrics are in, well, one song is in Russian, and it was just so spontaneous. I couldn't even start writing in English. It just poured out in Russian when I heard this melody, and the rest is in English. I just love English language. I love the way how you can uh, manipulate it into not manipulate, but like it's very what do you call it? There are so many synonyms and so many ways you can express a concept. That's something I really really like, and also I just like the sound of English, and sometimes it's easier to write in English. I I don't know. I write in both. Yeah,
Nice.
maybe in
All that
Italian someday.
That's great. Hopefully it's not too confusing for you when you're trying to get a point across. But American English especially, it's all those German C's and K's, right? Which is very hard. Um, we're just very effective with those with that those consonants.
I prefer American English to the British English. I'm sorry for, I just do.
Sorry, everybody.
Most of my English speaking friends are from the United States and from Canada. So I just
Nice.
grew up listening to that. I mean, I love British accent as well, but what I have, it's something wanna be American, I guess. So I don't like. This is the way I learned the language, and from the movies, like movies like Commando and things like that, because you couldn't really see many American movies back in the 90s in Russia, and Once Upon a Time in America, and these things.
That's a much better movie than Commando, but Commando's also
I know,
Commando's a
but
lot of fun. Right, you didn't have a lot of choices, and
no.
unfortunately, you had Arnold's, who I love, but you had Arnie, his Austrian American weird English, like let off some
Oh,
steam, Bennett.
yeah. We had a Russian translator speaking over the original version, like same voice for men and women, like one tone, so that you can. Sometimes they would put a pin on their nose so that you couldn't recognize the voice because they were all like pirated cassettes, and you couldn't like it was a mess. So I don't
That's
know. That's
great.
why a lot of people in Russia don't really speak foreign languages because I mean older generations because there was just no way of doing that.
That's amazing. Weirdly enough, I heard a bit of Russian in my childhood. My grandmother, actually, my father was part Ukraine, and my grandmother learned Russian from friends of hers. So I didn't speak
Oh,
any or understand any, but like my grandmother was a big languageophile, and she learned a lot of foreign languages, including Russian, which I imagine is
that's
very
amazing.
hard,
It's so hard.
hard, so hard. Yeah, she learned like a lot of like 15 languages. She was crazy,
Oh
and
wow.
that,
That's
and was
cool.
fluent too in a lot of them. But yeah, so language factors into this record, like you said. You have a song that's completely in Russian, and then like I said, this very lyrical, beautiful poetry set to this beautiful music. So obviously some of the themes are very dark and brooding and emotional, but like the words are incredible, right? So I love that like you didn't lose that poetry even though you married the words to the music.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Also, I wanted to ask about spiritual themes because it seems like I think obviously Sky Burial, is a little more well known here because it's a common theme in some heavy music, but also penance
I did
and
not know that. You know that
prayer.
I had no idea. Like I learned that Inter Arma had an album called like that
Yes,
after I wrote that song because people were saying like, "Oh, I've heard that somewhere." I'm like, "What?" And I saw Inter Arma live. I just didn't connect. Um,
yeah. There's been
sorry.
a few no it's quite there's been a few bands that use that sort of iconography or imagery, but
Hmm.
it's interesting, and yeah, like very heavy feelings, right? So this beautiful singing and this very captivating music, and then these very heavy emotions and titles, right? So I wanted to ask if like spirituality factors into some of this stuff, or death, like you said, death and life and love and things like those themes.
Yes, a lot of this album is based on personal experience. I mean, obviously, I did not die. I'm still here, but it's a lot about loss. I had to go through um, loss like a few times in my life since I was pretty young, and it changed me. It made me into the person I am now. And I have been always fascinated with the death because I don't see it as the end, but I see it as the part of the cycle. When I was so I obviously grew up in Russia, in the Soviet Union, actually, for my first few years, and I mean, like getting baptized was out of question. None of my family, everyone is in my family were atheists. But when I was, I think, 9, 10, 11, maybe, you could already like church started coming back because Russia has been always very religious country. Then during the 70 years of the Soviet Union, like the churches were burned and stuff like that. But then people were still like my grandma, my grandmother, whom I've never met. My mom told me that she had the little icon under the, she was hiding it in her like kitchen, and she would still like worship God, and because people, they look for, they had some tough times, and I think having someone or something to ask, to rely on in some way maybe helped. I don't know. I am not a religious person in a traditional way of although I asked my parents to get baptized because I just was curious about the ceremony, and I wanted to know if I would feel any different after that happened. I did not. And then I also like got disappointed in the classical religions, like monotheist religions, generally speaking. But I'm very interested in spirituality. I'm interested in paganism. I'm not gonna make a folk pagan record. I'm just interested in basically the Greek and Roman mythology the most. Now I'm also getting into others. In fact, one of the songs has a reference to Greek and Roman mythology. But yeah, definitely, spirituality is definitely. I mean, one of the songs is called "Absent Angels," and I got asked in an interview, like, do you really believe in angels, or like, what is it? Is it a metaphor? You have to look at the definition what an angel is. It doesn't mean a being with wings, and it's a concept. It's a good or bad. It's the way it's basically looked at by what it does, but not what it is. I don't know how to explain it in a more comprehensive way. So I believe that there is a lot more than just this, like a lot of different dimensions and lives. I'm interested in spirituality as because I'm just interested. I read the Bible when I was a kid in two languages, just for the sake of it. I don't. It's hard. I mean, it's not hard. It's just weird to talk about the religion, because the religion is one thing, the faith is another, and the spirituality is yet another one. So it's there. It's again, I base a lot of my art on my personal experience, and yeah, that's that's it. I mean, the record is very personal. Not all of it, because some of the songs are based on the, except for example, Sky Burial. I read a friend of mine posted an article about Sky Burial online on Facebook. I think I was just scrolling down and I read about it, and I just fell in love with the concept, because I think giving back that way is just beautiful. And I just wrote the lyrics for that song like in 10 minutes, because
Wow.
I thought it's just so amazing, while some other songs are based on my personal, yeah.
Nice. Well, some journalists might ask about angels. I'm more apt to ask about baptized witches,
Yeah.
forced baptized witches. I suspect. I don't speak Russian, so I can't tell you for sure. But what a wonderful title. At least the translation part, and the song is incredible. It's probably my favorite song on the record, actually. Um,
Thank you. And
in
you
terms of
don't
just
even
how
understand the language.
no, but that's also, but I also
That's
love Solstice.
amazing.
I don't know Icelandic, but I love Solstafir. So like I am a citizen of good music, whatever it is. And so
Just amazing. Yeah, I love it.
yeah, good stuff. And I love that song. And I was kind of gonna ask, I guess on a similar, like obviously, witches are fascinating. Wiccan here in America, our whole history of persecution comes from witch trials and how
Right.
people who different beliefs were treated shamefully, if you may ask me. I used to live in that area of the country also, so I know a bit about it. And so yeah, I
Oh,
wonder if you have that same kind
must
of
be beautiful.
you have that same. It's a pretty nice place, Salem, Massachusetts. If you ever get to come visit here,
Right. Yeah, Salem. Yeah, yeah. I
I
definitely want
hope.
to go there when I come to the
Yeah,
US.
it's a little touristy now, especially at
Oh,
Halloween. But it's still there's a lot of historic things there. And actually, the very first, the like first American ghost story is also based on a house in Salem. It has nothing to do with witches. It's called The House of Seven Gables. They made a Vincent Price movie, a horror movie about it. Just a ghost story,
Vincent
basically.
Price is great.
Um, yeah, I love Vincent Price. We could do a whole interview on Vincent Price someday. But I wanted to ask about witches and if you had that same kind of, just like you just said, there's all these layers and concept about angels. It's the same thing about witches and witchy religions, if you will, old religions. And I
Yeah.
wonder if that also factors into your values, since the record is very spiritual sounding.
So, um, no, I don't remember anything about witches, because witch was probably even more condemned than the religion in the Soviet Union. So I haven't had anything like, I didn't read about it, I didn't learn about it before. After I was older, the way I see witchery is, first of all, it's a feminine, it's the core of being a woman. And so I think every woman is a witch in one way or another. And that particular song was born in a very strange way. I was browsing YouTube for just new music, and I stumbled upon this beautiful song, Russian folk song, very antique. I have no idea who the author is. It was covered by a few artists, and the song was called "Разлилась речка быстрая," which is basically a song about the reincarnation. It has, I think, maybe like 12, 15 verses. They're all the same, and they all tell the story. Basically, there's a family of these three sisters. They go to the river, and one of them sleeps and basically dies by drowning. So then she reincarnates in the river itself, and the stones around it, and the grass and everything. And then she like, I just fell in love with the melody, but I wanted to make it my own. So I thought that I had to write the lyrics. The melody now, what you hear on the record, is completely different from what the original song is, but it's inspired by the harmony of that song, because it's just gorgeous. When I was listening to this melody, I just went in some kind of like trance, and I had this image in front of me about this young woman falling in love with death and like being baptized through falling in love with death. So that's the whole concept about that song.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I just have really one last question for you. I want to give you back your time. I know you're very busy with this record release tomorrow.
Yeah, it's
You know,
crazy.
it's just, I applaud you and the label for, putting this music out. It's fantastic.
I feel like I'm so grateful to Emiliano for like believing in me and like putting it out, and then the corona strike, and then just everything just got screwed up by logistics and no shows and everything. So I really hope he can make the best out of it. I will try my best.
Nice. You already have. I just wanted to close with asking about, I always like to ask kind of a final question that's a little more fun and a wild card question. So if there is another artist you could collaborate with, like a dream collaboration, anybody, living, dead, whatever, who would that be?
Huh. That's a good one. I think Dax Riggs from Acid Bath and Dax Riggs from Dax Riggs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So yeah, he doesn't do anything anymore, I think, but his like songwriting is just insane. I mean, I could name a lot of them, like Scott Kelly. That's I'm wearing the shirt
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know, Dorothea Cottrell from Windhand. Well, her solo album is just gorgeous. I think I really like it. And but yeah, I think Dax Riggs, because he's just so, the way he writes music is insane. Like the way he makes songs, like it's like 5 songs in a song, because they're so crazy. The times changing, and the way he sings, and the lyrics are insane. So yeah, that would be that would be the one. I don't think it's gonna
Well,
happen, but girl can dream.
you never know. You just never know. Listen, thank you,
Yeah.
Kay, for spending some time with us and sharing your story. Thank you for this
Thank you
record.
so much. Thank you so
Keep,
much
sa-
for having it. It's been
yeah,
nice.
my pleasure.
It was
Keep
my
safe.
first video interview.
Oh,
Sorry.
really? Well, you did great.
Yeah. Thank you.